JavaScript in general. So we were introduced to arrays last week in regards to just using them to store colors and to loop. That's really what we predominantly did last week with arrays. So if I took a look at color switcher, you know, we take a look at the to-do list, we would see that we had an array here with 3 things in it, 1, 2, 3, and then we just looped over the array. So the array was just introduced to give us something to loop over because this is a storage type container. That's how data is stored. It's one of the 2 ways that we aggregate content. And so I think last week, you know, when I introduced arrays and looping, and it's kind of like, why and how do we store data? So I put a little note here to like provide the context as to why it is these 2 are so important and how you would use it either in front-end development in this class, or if you continue with front-end development, right? You can't escape these 2. These 2 things are going to be things you will use consistently in web development. You cannot escape those 2, especially if you're working with JavaScript, okay? And so I wanted to kind of discuss, you know, how arrays and objects are used in front-end web development. And so what I wanted to do was kind of show how we send back and forth data. So there's this model that we use, this client server model. So this is our client, and this is our server. And this is the basic fundamental building blocks of the web and you getting data. And so the client types in a URL, whatever, and makes a request to get data. Okay? That server is going to do a few things. The server can either process the information, whatever it is that you want, or the server may need to go to some sort of database to get the data, right? So you make a request to the database is going to send that information back. It's going to do something with that information, maybe build out some sort of web page, right? So in this, on this side, we may have some sort of web page where this data gets retrofitted into here in some way. Take this data, loop over the data, build out the things that you want to see. So this becomes something like our index page, index HTML, right? And then that gets sent back to the client as a response. And this is a whole, there's a lot of stuff that's happening here besides just this basic drawing. Tons of other things happening under the hood. And so next class, when we cover APIs, the ability to grab data and have it sent back to you is the concept of an API, an application programming interface is what it stands for, and it's just a mechanism or word we use to describe the ability to send and receive data. Now, when you request a web page, you're getting a document, right? You're getting a physical document, and we know that when we look in sources and developer tools, we see the actual document. You see the document, you see the assets, you see the images. If there was, you know, a JPEG here, right? This JPEG would need to be downloaded and stored on your machine. Right? All those assets get downloaded. So when the client is doing this, this is usually what happens. But there's a lot of times when the client wants to just get data. So this request response could send back a file, or the response could be, so the response could be in one instance, just, and when I say data, this is data, right? An HTML page is data, CSS is data. That is information, okay? So the data could be in the form of this, or the data could just be data itself, okay? Not in the form of this, but this data is going to be in the form of an object, okay? And this is an object. We'll go over what an object is. It's going to be an object the object is going to have things like key and values, and there's a lot of information that we're sending back, so we have to organize this. Sometimes those objects are stored in arrays. Sometimes those arrays are keys and objects. It's like this data structure can get really complicated really fast. Just think if you were in charge of aggregating all of your life's information, everything about you that describes you physically, where you went to school, who your parents are, everything, how would you organize that information? What makes the best sense? I guarantee if I gave you like 10 things about your life that I wanted organized and structured, and I said, structure that information the best way you see fit, I'd probably see variations in how that information got structured, okay? And so when they create this data structure, it changes based on who created it, okay? And what you're asking for, what information are you asking for? Okay, so the other day we were working on colors, right? So if I go back to, I get out of this, if I was just to go to our color switcher, right? This is our code along, this is what we were doing, and hey, I said, I just wanted to get, originally we just had these colors, blue, green, yellow, and pink. That's all the colors that we have. So I'm gonna get rid of this. Why did that matter? We should go back just to these 4 colors. I'm gonna go, I just wanna show you. All right. 4 colors. That's originally what we did last week. We created a for loop that looped over the colors array, and we appended a new li and gave it a background color, and that's what we did. And that was easy enough, right? 4 colors are easy enough to do this. It would require, if we wanted more colors, I'd have to go in here and say, hey, do orange, and we should see orange on the screen, right? Dark blue, light blue, all shades of colors, right? Well, what if I said, I want all the named colors. I want you to create a palette of all the named colors. That's your app. Your app is a color app, and you need to produce all of the named colors. How are you gonna do that? You're gonna go in here and like type out every named color, right? Doesn't seem like a practical use case to do that. So what we could do is, we go here, is pull those named colors. So I'm gonna go to additional material here. API server, where is it? Oh no, I'm sorry, it's in the context. Here, this right here, I'm gonna open this up. These are all of the named colors, okay? How many colors are there? 148 named colors. So what if I could retrieve the data? So this data is stored in this database, right? Which means all of us can access, or if we can make a call, we can get this data back sent to us. And now if we all wanted all 148 colors, we could all get those colors at any point in time. It seems like a really efficient place to start, right? In a database, we make a request to get the data, and we can all access all 148 colors at any point in time that we want. And how is the data being stored here? What is this? These curly braces represent an object. That's what they represent. And what is color storing? What is this thing here? What do these 2 brackets represent? An array. And if I expand, we see that this is an array of those colors. And so with that particular array, I can go over here. I'm going to comment out this. I'm just showing you what you can do with this. And I can make an API call. And this is what we'll do. We're not doing this today. I'm just showing you what it would be like. And these are all those colors, right? So I made a call to get the colors, all 148 colors. They were returned to me. I looped over them because they were stored in some object that had an array called colors. And I'm looping over this array, and I'm doing the same thing, UL append here, and I'm doing a UL append here. Here's a loop, right? Colors length, color length, the name is just changed, right? I put data here, right? don't worry about this fetch part. We're going to cover that on Thursday. Now I have all the colors. I have all of the data here for this particular color palette, right? Easy enough to create this. The efficiency of storing data and requesting it using these types of objects, these data types, allows us to efficiently send back and receive this data, okay? That's just one example. If I was to go back here and take a look at a deck of cards. Lots of people build out apps for cards, card games, right? So you may not be the one building out just a web page, right? You may be like, I want to get into web development because I want to build games. I want to go into gambling and people do card games. I want to build out card games. Where are you going to get your cards? Like, are you just going to like type out this card, that card, the other card? Or is there a service out there that's like, hey, you want decks of cards? I'll give you a deck of cards and you can pick from the deck of cards. So here I created, using an API, I created a deck, 6 decks of cards, because they say, I think for 21, they use 6 decks of cards. That's what they said. And so I'm able to pull in these 2 items. I actually said I just want to see these 2 items right now, but these are our decks of cards. And so with this deck of card API, so this API right here, there's the image. I go to this website. This website provides us access to a URL that would give us decks of cards. And with those decks of cards, you can create things like a student had used that same API to create, hopefully this works, I haven't played it. I think this is, you know, like a memory game or something. I forgot how you play it. I just pulled it up. But this was his game. You have to check the rules, maybe reset the game. I forgot what the rules are for this particular game. The rules, King's Cup. Anybody play King's Cup? I don't know, it's like a drinking game or something, right? So the fact that we can pull these cards and I have an image of the card, I have a value of the card, right? I'm getting all of this data back. And I have to get this data back organized in such a way that, one, every card has its own unique information, its image, its value, its suit. And the deck of cards need to be organized in an array to be this collection, a collection of cards. Every element in the array is an object, and the array contains all of the decks of cards, okay? And so with that information, you can build something like this, right? You can elicit that information and build any sort of thing that you want with these decks of cards, okay? You don't have to worry about getting an image, what's the suits of the image. The information for this particular deck of cards is in there. We don't really have to do much. And so when I did say here, count 2, it's giving me 2 cards out of the deck. Both of them are hearts. This is a 4 of heart. That's an 8 of heart. It has a value, and it has images that I can use. I have everything that I need to build an app with decks of cards. All the information aggregated in such a way that this object contains all the information about the 4 of hearts. This object contains all the information about the 8 of hearts, and the cards array contains all of those cards, okay? If I change this to be, instead of a count of 2, I said give me 5 cards, well, it's gonna give me 5 cards, and each one stored as an object, okay? In an array. This is the importance of these 2 data types and why you need to know them for front-end development, okay? You will need to pull data from an API. If you're gonna be in front-end development, there's no way to get around it. You have to, at some point in time, pull data. And this is how the data is going to be sent. And it's going to be structured differently based on how, or the data source that you're accessing, okay? I could access this API, which is a random user API. Remember when I said, if I asked you to organize your information about you in such a way, there would be variations to this. Somebody said, we're going to create this free API, and we're going to organize it like this. And I bet you there was, you know, talk like, no, I think we should blah, blah, blah. We should organize this, yada, yada. And there was discussion. Like, this just didn't come out of nowhere. Somebody sat down and was like, what do you think is the best way to organize data? Right? And what you can see here is there's an array and an object with key value pairs. And some of those values are even objects that contain even more information. So that structure could have been created very differently depending on whose eyes were looking at it. Okay? That's the importance of this. These two things. Okay? And so we're going to focus in on arrays. And for arrays, today what we're going to be doing is adding and removing elements from array. What we did the other day was just loop over. Do I still have it? Did I get rid of it? I think I got rid of it. What we're going to do, let me just close these things here. Instead of just looping over this array, right, and creating the colors, we're going to do things like adding and removing elements from that array. We didn't add anything. We just looped over the array and we're like, hey, if you're at this position, then I got your value. If you're at the next position, I got your value. Okay? So we'll do that. Then we'll return elements from the array based on its position. Those are the two things that we focused in on were the element itself and its position in the array. Okay? When we get to objects, we'll learn about creating these objects and organizing the info using these key value pairs, which is something that we just saw, and then how to extend these to include methods. And methods have been things that we've been doing, right? What's one method in jQuery you've been using constantly? So if I have some element, I don't know, an ID of color, and I want to give this thing some CSS. I want to give it a background color. What do we use? Dot CSS, right? Parents, right? And in here, we'd say something like, I'm just going to abbreviate it, BGC for background color, comma, and then the color that we want. I don't know, blue, right? Okay. This whole thing right here, I'm sorry, this whole thing is a method. It does something, right? Methods were used for like getters and setters, right? Getters and setters. Those were what we were using it. This is clearly a setter, and if we wanted it to be a getter, what would it be? .css, PGC, that's it. This is a getter, and this was a setter. So methods do something versus like properties that just kind of describe something, right? This actually gets something back. This sets something, okay? And those are methods, and we've been using .css, .append. What other methods did we use? .submit is a method, right? So that was a method we used. What other methods? We got .css, .html, .submit, add class, right? So what I'm trying to emphasize here is this format, right? The name of something in parens, the name of something in parens, the name of something in parens, and this dot. This dot here is key because there was something before the dot, right? This was always before the dot. So over here, there was some sort of element that you grabbed, and then there was a dot to do something. Hey, I grabbed the element .html, add HTML. Hey, blah, 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 dot add class, and you add a class, right? So the dot and the parens are synonymous with a method. And you will see that once we get around to working with objects. You'll see that, okay? Okay. Client server, focus on the data structure. Okay. Awesome. And so if you were to put this in also, so I'm just going to slack this out. So you can test this. Put that in your browser. And if you put that in your browser, you should get all of the colors. Right? You may not see them like this. You may see it like that. but you will see it. You have retrieved all of the colors that were stored somewhere else, okay? This stuff is being rendered from a server. I've configured the server to send the data like this, okay? Sweet. Accessing data. So that's the context of how important this stuff is. So we're gonna go into arrays. We're gonna jump right into arrays. I'm gonna slack out the code along. So once again, just a little bit of review in creating arrays. So creating an array literal called colors. If we create an array, we always store it in a variable for the most part. So I'm going to say let colors is equal to an array. That's an array. Now, there's no colors in the array. This is just an empty thing. If we wanted to store things in the array, well, I could create or add maybe the color red, yellow. Just gonna add a couple of colors. You can add whatever colors you want. Green. We could keep going. We could add as many colors. So we're just defaulting to adding something so we have things that we can put inside of the array, okay? So this is an array literal. It's literally an array. That's what it is, okay? Now, arrays, when we were looping, when we looped over, I'm just gonna get rid of this so we just have the 4 basic colors that we work with, so there's no complexity, right? 4 basic colors. How many times do I have to loop over this array? 1, 2, 4 times, right? How do we make that decision? How do I know that there's 4 things to loop over? What in here indicates? Well, I is the position, length. The length of the array, right? How long it is. When we were discussing like a div or something, and I kind of represented it like that. When we were talking HTML elements, we talk things like width and height, right? I never ask you what's the length of a div, right? That would be weird. You would say, what's the width of a div, right? What's the height of a div? But an array is more like a piece of wood, I would say, in regards that we look at its length, right? It has a length to it, and that length, the length of it is dependent on the things that you put inside the array, okay? And so if I look at this, I can clearly see that there's 4 things, but the computer's like this. The computer doesn't have eyes. It's like, how many things are in it? I don't know. I can't see it. So either you give me a better way of determining how many things are in it, because I don't have eyes like you do, right? And this code runs under the hood, so it's not like you can see it anyway. So we need something, a property, to help us determine how many things are in it. And usually with arrays, one of the big things that you use with arrays is length, because I'm getting a box of things, and I want to do something with the box of things, and usually creating elements on the screen. So if I go here, I can say return the length of the array. So I can say, I don't know, I'm just going to console.log here, and I can say, hey, this is the array length, and then just do colors dot length. Okay? If I go to developer tools, I should see here, this is the array length, and I'm getting the value 3, right? We know that there's 3 things in this array. If I put another thing in the array, red, yellow, green, I don't know, blue, then this should return the array length is 4. 4 things in the array. Something native, it knows about it, it can return it. Okay. How do we get an element into the array? So arrays are containers, right? These types of containers, and arrays are contain things, right? Throughout your application, though, you may want to keep track of what's being done. User is interacting with the screen, and you may want to say, well, what did they click on? So if this is a, if this was an e-commerce site, right? I don't know, does this look like a shopping cart? If it was a shopping cart and you put in something, this is the one thing. Hey, I like that thing, I put it in there. Cool. Hey, I'm gonna put another thing and another thing and another thing, right? This number here goes up every time you add something, right? Shopping cart is a little number 4, 5. How do we store that information? You're interacting with the computer right now. You're interacting with the application. You say add to cart. How do we organize this information? How do we store it? What do you think of the 2 things that we have you would use to store it? There's only 2 things we're covering. Or each one of these, let's put it this way, each one of these is an object. How about that? What's the container for those objects? The array. This is what you see on the screen, right? That's visually what you see. You add, you see the number go up. This thing is really an array that's keeping track of the things that you've added, right? I'm just creating these objects. As you add a new thing to your shopping cart, this number goes up because this number is really this thing's dot length, right? So the computer knows. Every time you push something in here, this number goes up. It just knows how many things you pushed in. I don't need a counter to be like, oh, they put in 1, they put in 2 every time they click. I don't need that. I just go, they added something to the array, ask the array how many things they have. Right? That's it. I don't need any separate anything. This thing knows. If I remove something from here, if I get rid of this thing and take it out of the shopping cart, this number goes down to 3 because there's only 3 things inside of the array. You use this concept every day. Every day, that's what's happening on the web. Arrays are that important to keep track of things, and length is a really key property out there. That's why I'm emphasizing the best way to kind of demo that is a shopping cart in that aspect. So we're shopping, and I'm like, hey, I like those shoes, and I want to add those shoes to the shopping cart. So I could say, hey, let elements add an element to the end of the array. And you know, now in hindsight, I almost feel like this should have been a shopping cart, right? Instead of colors, but we're kind of where we are. So I'm going to do this. I am going to push an element into the array. So I'm going to take colors, and I need to get something into the array. The user just clicked on shoes, and I'm going to say colors, because that's the name of the array. Dot push. That's the method. Dot something parens, and what do you want to push? Well, I would like to push, I don't know, once again, I'm going to say shoes. I'm going to stick with this. I'm going to go back, Jen. I'm going to change it. All right, and so now I'm going to console log, and say, let's just console log colors, and see what we have now in colors. Look, red, yellow, green, blue shoes. Okay? Could have pushed the color, but I like the whole shopping cart I did. Right? You're shopping. I like shoes. I pushed it into the array. It doesn't matter the position inside it here. It really doesn't matter. Right? But once again, the computer doesn't know where you put shoes in it. If we want to remove shoes at some point in time, we're going to have to ask the array to find shoes, and then we got to like rip it out of it. Okay, but as of right now, we can push something into the array. Now, most of the time, you push things to the end of the array. This push method is probably the predominant method that people use to get things into the array. Just a container. I don't really care the position of the things. It's not a big deal for me. But if we wanted to get something to the beginning of the array, well, then we would have to use another method. Colors.unshift. And I'm going to say maybe a shirt. I'm going to put a shirt. And now I am also going to console log colors again. And we should see shirt is at the beginning of the array. Okay, so we can push things into the end. We can put them at the beginning. The predominant method you're almost always going to see is push. But unshift is key to solving some algorithmic problems, like reversing a string of text. We could push something into the beginning of the array. Okay. How do we remove an element from the array?
Okay, so I'm going to get rid of shoes. I'm like, you know what? I got the shirt. I can't afford the shoes. I'm buying all these colors anyway, so I just ran out of money. So I'm going to say colors dot pop. That's all you do. Console dot log colors. And now we should see shoes are gone from the array. The two predominant methods I use are push and pop. Because once again, most of the time, and I'm going to say most of the time, you're not concerned about the position of these things. Sometimes you are. There's solutions for like tic-tac-toe that we come up with that these positions represent the X's, you know, the boxes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And so these would represent the position. So if you were to click on the first box, I would put an X there if you were X. If you were O and you were like, man, I'm going to go for the middle box, so that would probably be number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I would put an O there. And we could use this to keep track of that. But most of the time, we just push things in and get them out. Okay? How do we remove an element from the beginning of the array? I made the decision, man, I got all these colors. I can't afford this shirt anymore, so I'm going to say colors dot shift console log colors. And now shirt should be magically removed from our array. Okay? So getting things into and out of the array is key because that's what the array is. It's a container. A container that is meant to store things. Okay, in this instance, we're just storing shirts and colors, right? All right, so something comes down the line and we're like, hey, that thing at the last position, or maybe the first position, I don't want this to be red. Let's just say we put this in an order of things and we know that we need to target an element at a specific position, right? If we wanted to target an element at a specific position, position 0, well then we could say colors bracket 0 is equal to, and I'm going to change it to be purple, and I'm going to console log colors now, and we should see the first element now is purple. Once again, if this was tic-tac-toe, and we had these empty positions in an array, we'd want to make sure that this thing represented X or O, depending on, right? Because at any point in time, they may not have clicked the top left box. That may be a while before they click the top left box, so this might just be an empty spot. Oh, they just clicked the top left box? Ooh, man, put that as an X or an O, whoever it is that's clicking at that time, right? Now, if I want to set a position, an element at the last position, right? Now, you visually can see how many elements are here, right? The computer can't see how many elements. So doing the first position is pretty obvious. Position 0, right? If there is one thing, it'll be at position 0. How can you tell me, if I told you, what's the last element here? You couldn't see it. How would you return back the last element? What? End? No, not quite. End, like,
yeah, just a guess.
If you're saying length, then you're right. So let's just say you said length. Okay. So let's think of this. If you didn't know how many things were in the array, but you already know that length tells you how many things are in the array, then we can start with that, right? If I just said, give me the last thing, you'd be like, all right, well, what's the length of the array? And I can use the length of the array to get the last thing. So set a new value for the last element. So we could say colors dot length minus 1. And I'll explain why. Is equal to, I'm going to say orange. That's the new color. And I'm going to console log colors, and we should see colors not defined. Oh, did I do colors colors, colors, colors. Oh, because this is not color, it's colors. That's where I'm getting this error. Now look, the last element is orange. Okay. So, why do you think I did -1? Yeah, the array starts at 0. Remember, that was an important thing. When we did our loop last week, we started the loop at 0, and this is why. If I have something here, here, and here in the array, these things represent the actual elements, the things in the array, but these things are stored at a position in the array. The first thing is at position 0. The second thing is at position 1. The third thing is at position 2. But if I said, how many things are in here, you're going to say 3. But there is no element at the third position, right? So what we do is we take the length, would be 3, do -1, which gives you the last element in the array. Okay? Because the true length of this, if I did dot length here, this would return 3. But there is no element at position 3. There's an element at position 0, 1, and 2, but not 3. So if I take length and I -1, I'm going to get 2, and there is an element at position 2. So getting things out of the array, the last element, and remember, you can't see how many things are in the array. You can only use some of the properties that the array has, and length is one of them. So this is important. At the first position, set a new, okay. So if we want to retrieve the thing at the first position of the array, how would we do that? So I'm going to just say console log. How do I return the thing at the first position? Colors, bracket, 0. Purple. Okay. Now we already retrieved the last element, and I retrieve the first element, retrieve the element at the first position in the array, set a new value. Oh, we set a new value for the element. So if we want to retrieve the element at the last position, all we'd have to do is this, console log colors, colors.length -1. That would retrieve the element already. This set is the value of the last element. This retrieved the first element. This retrieves the last element. See how the equal sign here is used to set something? But if it's just the colors, the brackets, and some value, that's retrieved. Getting and setting, right? We're back to this concept of gets and sets. Setting a value in an array, getting a value in an array. Okay. Now, if we wanted to loop over this array, right? Let's just go over the looping construct. We did this last week, right? If I asked everyone, hey, write a loop right now from memory, you'd be hard-pressed to write a loop, right? To be okay, this isn't an easy thing to remember. So if I wanted to loop over the array, I would do a for loop. For, we set a variable to be equal to where we want to start. Then I say, how long or where do we end? What's the condition upon where we end? Well, I is less than colors.length, right? Semicolon, I plus equals 1. And then we do something in here. These curly braces here are referenced as what? What's the naming convention for those curly braces? If we put code in there, they are called it's called a code block, right? Same thing with a function. That's a code block. That's where you add your code. I could have anywhere between 1 line of code to infinite amount of lines of code inside this code block. I could have a full application that Facebook could run within these 2 code blocks. Literally, you could have the whole application running within here. And that's a lot of lines of code for Facebook, right? You wouldn't do it, but you could do it. This code block could contain everything that you would ever need for your application. It's not usually the case. If we just want to console log the elements in the array, well, then we just do console.log colors bracket what? What's the value that's keeping track? You said it. I, right? I is what's keeping track of our iterations. And I translates into 0 the first time, 1 the second time, 2 the third time, right? And that's how we elicit back the values from the array, okay? There's other ways to loop over arrays. I'm not going to cover the other arrays, but arrays themselves have methods that allow you to loop over them. This type of loop is a generic loop that you always learn in JavaScript. You have to use it. It does come in handy a lot. But there's other loops that arrays have that allow you to loop over an array, that you don't have to type all of this out, okay? There's articles out there. If you looked up an article like the best array methods to learn, you're going to come up with these. Or anybody going on to like SEI, learn those array methods because they will come in handy, okay? We're sticking with this right now. We don't have time to go into every little nuance of it, okay? Okay, so that's our array basics. This is just array basics, okay? And so you might be thinking like, how do we use this stuff? Like, when am I going to use it? How do we get this done? I go here. All right. So, you know, we'll start the lab. I think we can start the lab instead of taking a break right now. So I'm going to slack this out. This is the first lab, and it's just to get you working with those methods that we just went over. Can you apply those to retrieve things from an array? Okay, so there's part one, there's only one part. All right, at the very bottom of this, I have what the console logs should represent. So for question one, this should be the return values. For question two, that should be the return value. So you have something to compare. I want you to do the thing and then console log the thing so that you know that you did the right thing, right? So what you're going to see here is the values returned are going to be different. This is the whole array. What do you think I'm asking for here? On line 92, what do you think I'm asking you to return back to? Considering that's the array. The element at position what? 0. Awesome. What do you think I'm asking you from line 93? Well, is there anything in there at position 2? Like, this is a number 3. So what am I asking you for? What? The length. Right? So just looking at this, it's kind of intuitive what's happening. What am I asking you for in line 94? Position 2 or the last element in the array. Right? Always use length minus 1 because you'll never be able to tell me the length of the array because you'll never be able to see the array. All right? And then here we're just resetting some things. Like, what do you think we're doing here on line 95? We're pushing. What do you think we're doing here? We're unshifting because I'm putting something at the beginning, right? Here, I'm not really sure what I'm doing here. Oh, what do you think we did here? What's the difference between these two arrays? Well, look, these things are the same, these are the same, these are the same, these are the same. You pop something out of the array, you remove. And in this one, I'm not really sure what I'm doing. Here we're renaming some things. I renamed the first one and I renamed the last one. So you're resetting values, okay? Just so that you know, when you look at here and I go to question 1, the question 1's like, all right, create an array of image source file names. And these are the images I want you to use. So you would do this. Q1 is equal to brackets image2.png, comma, quotes, image3.png, comma, quotes, and image4.png. Okay? You have to know that you separate them using commas. If you console log this right now, you will see that as the return. I'm going to just go to the console in Developer Tools, and I should see this, right? An array of 3 things. That's what you should have seen. You're going to work with these values for the rest of the questions. Okay? The rest of the questions are going to be like, use the array from question run, store the first element of the array in Q2. Work with what we just did. Now, I'm going to put this over here, and I'm going to put this over here, because these are the things that we just did. All the methods you need are right there on the right-hand side. Okay? Make sure to console log. Open up developer tools. Be in developer tools. You might see some errors as you're typing. Just clear out the errors, clear the console, refresh the page, and you'll see everything. If you get errors, you got to work through those errors. And when you are done, just click on the thumbs up so you can get a heads up. So Emma, I just slacked out a bonus lab. Yes. Okay, I have the first three. If you needed help with the first three, that's the structure for the first three. Should be pretty straightforward considering what we're doing here. If you were getting errors, those are the first three. Okay? And in the terminal, you will see it's question 1, 2, and 3. The rest of the console logs aren't, you haven't done them yet, so you're going to just get undefined in that. So. Looks like 4 you off to the bonus, right? Bonus, bonus, bonus. If you did solve the bonus, click on the second thumbs up that I put. Okay, that was 20 minutes. Let's see what we got here. All right. So we'll just go through the solution here. First one, populate an array. That's easy enough, right? Same thing we did here, right? Create an array right here. Just create an array with different things, images, right? Still strings of text. We're just calling it Q1. Question 2, using the array from question 1, store the first element of the array. This is how we retrieve the first thing in the array because arrays are stored based on position. Okay? So in order to get something from the array at that position, we need the brackets. Okay? And we had done that, here to return back the first thing from the array. This returns it and actually stores it in Q2. It's like returning just the value. We didn't mutate the array. This thing is still sitting in position 0. We're just saying, hey, give me back the value, store it over here, and maybe I want to do something with it. Get the length of the array, Q1.length. There are however many elements, there's 3. That value is going to return 3. Okay? Let's go to developer tools just so we can see 3. Go to question 4. Using the array, store the last element of the array. Once again, a Q1 is the array. Brackets represent that we want to retrieve something. You retrieve something from an array based on its position. And so we do Q1.length minus 1. This was the kind of same concept we did here. And then we made that decision because the length is 3. We have the minus 1 to get the last element. Last element's at position 2. Easy in. We then go to question 5. Using Q1 variable, we add image 5 as the last element. So if we push, that just adds it as the last element, right? We push it. I'm not asking you to reset it. I'm just asking you to add it, okay? Add is different than resetting a value. And so if we do that, here, one of these arrays has it. I think because we mutated the array, we won't see it. Question 6, using Q1 variable from question 1, add image 1 as the first element of the array. And so this would add it to the very beginning of the array. Okay? Pop removes things from the end of the array. And shift removes things from the beginning of the array. Just basic array methods. Okay? Now this is where we reset things. So if I ask you to reset the element's value at the first position, you do. Grab it's the position, and then you say, I want to reset it back to something else. And then the last one is reset the element at the last position to be that, okay? Ultimately, that's what we should have seen. And I'd have to expand all these arrays in order to really see the elements that are in them. But you see, there's always almost 3 things except for this one, right? This one should have had 4. I think it pushed it in there. Okay. So basic uses of arrays. And then I did send out, and I think some of you are working on the bonus. I want to take a look at the bonus because I think the bonus is cool. This is part of the pre-work for the software engineering immersive program, okay? So I wanted to see if it made sense how we could use this, right? So learning all those methods, you have to learn, you have to know the basics. But I want to create a board that has 4 columns, okay? So the board should look like this. I mean, if you did it, you would have seen ultimately what the board looked like. But let me show you what the board would have looked like. This is what we're aiming for, 4 cards. It's a memory game. Just click on it. Oh, for some reason the cards aren't clicking on right now, but 4 cards. Once again, when we pulled a deck of cards, this thing could be 52 cards here, and you could play a little memory game. Is it like 4 of this and 4 of that? Oh yeah, I got it. And like you could flip it over that way. But we have cards here. So all I wanted you to do was this first card here, right? Loop over the cards array and do the following. Okay, where's the cards array? That's the cards array, okay? Cards array, and it has these objects in it, okay? Each object represents a card, a rank, a suit, an image, and a background image of the card. Because we need the same background image, but every card image needs to be different because the cards themselves have different images, right? So that's the array. Create a variable called card element, set card element to create a new image element, okay, because they are images. Add the following to the card element. A source. We're going to add a background image because you don't see the thing, right? A data ID attribute. Now, you may not, we didn't work with the data ID attribute, but if we were using jQuery to add an attribute, what would we use? What's the method? .attr. That's how we add attributes, right? How would you have added the source of an image attribute? .attr. And you did this with CityPix. You had CityPix, right? The 4 images, and you had to click and like change. This is something that you had done in the past. Add a click event that calls the flip card function, and they're pinned the image. So let's just say we wanted to do this. What's the first step here? I want to loop over this array. How do I create my for loop?
Let I equals 0.
Okay, so for let I equals 0, semicolon. That's my initialization. We're initializing a starting point. Then we put our condition, and that is going to be while I is less than what?
The array.
Yeah, so the array is called cards, right? That's the array, cards. Cards dot length, semicolon. And then we have to count our way up from 0 to 4. And how do we do that? Do we do it? Once again, the computer's so dumb, it doesn't know. Do you want me to count 1, 2, 3, or do you want me to count 1 and then jump to 3 and then jump to 6? Like, it doesn't know. We have to tell it that I want you to step up like this. I plus equals 1. Okay? And so this should count from 0 all the way up to, we have for the number 3. We'll go up to the number 3. There's 4 elements in the array. The last thing is at position 3. Cool. I add my code block, and then we begin doing our thing, right? So I'm going to just move this over a little bit because it should be nested, right? It should never be in line with this. The function's here. A function begins here. This curly brace ends that function, ends function. And we should not have any other curly brace in this function aligned here or any other code in this vertical. Everything should be tabbed over. So what do we do here? So the thing is, let me move this over just one. Create a variable called card element. Let card element is equal, right? Create it. I'm not telling you to set it anywhere. I'm just saying create it right now, right? On the next line, I say set it. So you could go to the next line and set it. Or now that we know what we want to do, we could say is equal to a new image element, right? We know how to create elements by now. We've done it with LIs, we've done it with the color switcher, we've done it with the to-do list. That creates an element. Awesome. So now I have an element. How do I add the following to the card element? So I'm going to say card element dot attr, because it is an attribute in src is an attribute of an image, and I say src, this is a setter, comma, and then I have this image here. So I have to take this image, right? I'm not going to type that image out. I'm just going to copy the image, put it in single quotes, and paste it. And I have the image, okay? Now, just to get the thing on the screen, we could add it. Like, we could go through these next two steps and add this. What if we just wanted to make sure that the things were on the screen, and then we'll backtrack and add this? I'm going to append it first, just to make sure that the thing is working and we see it, and we can go back and add this. So I'm just going to do this. I'm going to add like 2 spaces here, and then just say, if I want to append the image to the game board, I wrote it like this for a reason. Why do you think I wrote it like this? Because it's an ID, and if as an ID, we would target like this. Pound, game board, and I want to append the image, right? Dot append, it's our jQuery. What are we appending? Card element. Okay. Nothing happened here, and I did say that in this particular one, I added this little run button. Code's not running right now. Unless I click on run, it won't run, and if you click on run, it does run. And I did it so that you didn't see a bunch of console log errors. As you type out stuff, you will see constant errors here, because this code here runs immediately. So if I just start typing a little something and I stop, the code depends like, you stop typing, so I'm going to run the code, and all of a sudden you're going to get a bunch of errors. So I just paused it. This little run button will only run the code when you tell it to run, right? And so this code here creates 4 cards. Now just know that if we wanted to, we can make the data pull from the deck of cards and return 500 and something odd cards and put that on the screen. This could be a forever memory game where you're sitting like all day trying to do this, right? It works. How do I add these 2 properties here? Well, let's go and say card element dot attr data ID. And what's the value? I'm going to set it to the element's position in the array. What's the first element's position in the array? 0, and the second is 1 and 2. What's that represented in the loop? As what? What's keeping track of the positions of the elements in the array? I. Okay? I represents the first time this loop runs, I is 0. The loop runs, and then it adds a 1. So the next time the loop runs, I is 1. The loop runs, checks this condition. Hey, are you still less than cards element? Hey, that's true. Cool. Add 1. Next time it runs, it's 2. Cool. Run the code, take a look, and then do it. Okay? So that should have given it an ID of its current position. And then the last one is add a click event that calls the flip card function. Card elements dot click flip card. That's it. And that should work. And if I run it, I shouldn't see any errors, right? So if I don't see any errors, that's a good thing. And if I click on the card, well, I put a debugger in there. We'll see it erroring, but in the console, we should have seen inside, oh, I added a console log just to say that it clicked, okay? But there's this debugger right here. On line 55, just delete that thing in the check for match. That debugger, get rid of that because that's a tool that we can use to stop our code. We don't want to do that right now and now, if I test it, I click on the card, click on the cards, click on the cards. You just created 4 cards, okay? Think how useful this is. I really want you to think about the ability to take an array of things and loop over those things to create this, okay? All right. Any questions on this? Yeah.
Where did we define data ID?
Right here. Data ID is an attribute that we can add. It's just something that we can add in HTML. So if you take a look here, if you take a look at the elements, you will see that the element has a data ID attribute. So we never covered data ID, but a data ID is an HTML5 property that allows you to store data inside the HTML that you can then elicit back later. So this image has an image that we can elicit back, right? If I did image.attr and I asked for the source, it would give me back this image. This data ID allows you to store information, additional information that you want to keep track of about this thing. And so we're using it to keep track of the element's position. Because if I wanted to find out where this was in the array, what's keeping track of its position in the array in HTML? The data ID, right? So if you clicked on the third card, you click on it, I can ask you to retrieve the value stored in data ID, and that gives me a value of 2. That tells me that that's the element's position in the array. So now I have a reference point. I know the element that you clicked on in the array, and I can go to the array and like do things specifically to that element. I can say, hey, that element was clicked on, and like set a property called clicked and set it to true, because I know where it is in the array. So this will follow it around wherever it goes. And this is a technique that's used quite often, okay? Flip card is a method, is a function. This is a click event. Click events. Yeah, flip card is right here. And I'm leaving it, there's a part 2. Once again, it's a bonus later on. Once we learn how to go through objects and retrieve and set values, this will allow you to then elicit values and go and take a look at certain things, okay? So ultimately, it should have, I must have done something here, did not completed the code or added something here. Yeah, I did something here. I got to go back in. I was playing around with these things, trying to set it up for this, and then going back and forth, I just errored out, so I'm going to go fix it. All right. So we see the importance of arrays. Once we come back from break, I'm going to show you just one more thing where arrays are used to do just what we did and how useful they can be, okay? So why don't we take a break? Take a 5-minute break, come back, and we'll jump into objects. This is the one. Hey. What's up?
I'm going to start on the project finally.
Oh, good. Well, that's good news.
I just submitted the wireframes.
Okay.
So we're getting
But
there.
you're doing
Yeah.
you made the decision to do your
Yeah.
thing, right? All right. So it's
Public
like,
can change it.
okay. I'm like, the wireframe's right there because you showed me the thing. So, okay. What's up?
So my question is, I know we set this up, but I don't remember at all.
Oh, the project you mean? Okay.
What is it? What's
So
the
go to your
website?
dashboard because you can't
Yeah.
create a new one. So go to project.
What's
Well, that's your
that right
dashboard. Go to project and you'll have one project. Go to dashboard. Why does it keep telling you? Oh, there's your project. Click on that. That's the basic structure.
So my gut, like I didn't need to set up because I remember you said we had to.
No, we already did it. So when
No,
I
don't
had
think
everyone,
I did it.
what's that?
I don't think I did it.
Okay. So the only thing that we did here was we imported jQuery.
Okay.
And I imported jQuery in the head.
Okay.
That's all we
That's
did.
it.
And then we just tested things out. I was like, just make sure, let's console log jQuery. And then jQuery was done, and that was it.
Okay. So just that.
Yeah, just add jQuery in the head. That's all you gotta do. Right.
You make me feel old.
It's like, my brother left their house 2 years ago. And stayed away for 3 days. Stayed away 3 days partying. So I have an older stepbrother and a younger brother and younger stepmother. I have 4
All right.
sisters. 2 biological and 2 siblings.
So let me just do this. There's, all right. Just to show you the importance, we're going to cover this again when we hit APIs. So this was from a JavaScript class. We did heavy JavaScript, obviously, right from the beginning. It was expected. You came in with HTML, CSS. Okay. And so data, the person stored data. If you were interested in doing something like this, you could easily set this up. This is data stored in a Google Sheet. They took beers, this is a beer app, and they had like the brewery, the name of the beer, the style, the variation, alcohol content, the image of the beer, notes, some sort of stamp, some other information. They elicited that information using an API call, and they looped over it. Look in the HTML, there is no, look, this is all the information. There's none of these beers, they're not in there, right? You're not gonna go out of your way. This is the importance of this. You're not gonna go out of your way and create these beers in here manually, because what if tomorrow they change the names of the beers, they add or remove beers, you would have to go into the HTML and like manually do this? That would be insane. Somebody on the admin side goes into the Excel spreadsheet and just makes the things. The next time somebody refreshes the page, you get the new information on the fly. It makes the call, it gets the data. All of this data needs to be sent to this thing, okay? And they do. There's a function called render. What is the render function? My function, render. This render function goes through everything and it loops over. He does a bunch of stuff in here, but what he's gonna do is he's gonna loop over it and create the thing. And I'm just looking for where, look, does this look familiar? Like here's a loop. So he's looping over things. He's doing some things here. So what I'm saying is that this is efficient coding. Storing it someplace and then getting the data and then looping over and creating a new card and like doing something in here, appending it. Look, you see the append? Append. So you know he's appending something, right? Append, the front of the thing, the back of the thing, okay? And it also had some animation. So he had to add some animation, click events and everything, okay? I'm just showing you the importance of what you're doing. So you might think like, oh, what am I, pushing things into an array and getting things out of the array? Maybe, maybe not. Looping over an array and creating things is gonna be key to your job as a front-end developer, okay? You are not storing all of these things hard-coded in the HTML. That's not something you're gonna do. Okay. So if you were interested in storing things just open this up, in a Google Sheet, and you wanted to pull some of that information, you can easily do that. It's a really easy API pull. Okay. So let's move on to objects. Let's see. Let me show some objects here. We haven't really, I'll demo it in just a minute, just to give some context here. So, objects, arrays are used like that shopping cart. The array is the shopping cart. It contains all the things that you're going to store. And so an object is a thing, and things have properties about them, right? If it was a shirt, there would be a size, there would be a cost, there would be a vendor, right? There would be material that describe this thing. You could probably have hundreds of things that describe a shirt. Well, maybe not 100, but a lot of things that would describe something, okay? So an object, like say a person, contains, these are small things that this object contains, right? When I showed you before the random user API, there was a lot of data there for a person. Login information, first and last name, their date of birth, and a lot of it. When you create the object, you decide what properties it should contain. So in this particular object, what we see is that we're creating an object. This is an old way of doing it, but we do lets is equal to, and in curly braces, right? Oh, I'm sorry, here's the curly braces. We have a name. The name is Chandler. This is actually one of the other instructions. The age, I think his age was 29 at the time. He's got favorites. What is favorites? What data type is favorites returning? What is that? What is that? Brackets represent what? Array of strings, right? It's an array of words, and words are strings. Speak is returning what? What is that? A function, right? And the function is doing something. It's like returning some text. Do your JavaScript homework. And then that is a method. In that instance, it's a method. This is kind of an older way of writing it. I gotta update the slides to do that. So object values, like name, are called properties, and object functions, speak, are called methods. So I always emphasize this as methods, and now you see how methods are created inside of something. And anytime you have that dot, the thing before it is an object, okay? And we have properties, and those properties are things like name, age, and favorites. I call them keys because I do them as like a key, and this is a value. The key is age, the value is 29. Some people will say this is the property is name, and the value is this. This is always value. This can be either key or property. I like to go by key because that's what it represents. So syntax shows key value patterns, right? And so this is used everywhere also. Think if you went to the bank and you're doing transactions. The bank, every transaction that you do at the bank is going to contain information about what you've done. Or this looks like maybe credit cards or something. Hey, today or that day you spent that amount of money at In-N-Out Burger. On this day you spent that money at this brewery, right? This is how we keep track of the transactions that happen. So objects are used to aggregate information about a thing, and arrays are used to store, as a general box, the things, whatever they are. Most of the time, the things in here are related, right? If I'm doing transactions, then they are all transactions. You're not going to find in the transactions array a string of just color. Like, that would make no sense. Like, what the hell is color doing there? What is the number 3 just being popped in there for? That doesn't make any sense. So the elements themselves need to have a consistent structure, okay? Everything's consistent. So when I ask transaction 3 to return back its date, it returns back its date. This key, because it's consistent, I can hit any one of these up and ask them to return that key, and it'll be the same key. I don't want this to be called date and another one to be called, day of the week, whatever it is. It should be consistent. Okay, and that consistency allows us to create millions of objects. Each one of them have the same keys with different values because they are unique amongst themselves, right? That's an object literal. And I mention it as an object literal because there's another way to create these things, and we don't really do this. You could have created a new array also. This is not something that we usually do. This is how arrays, this is how objects are created, not this. There's a place for this, but this is not how we do it. You won't do it that way ever. You'll never do it like this. I've never had the instance where I needed to do new objects. I have used the new keyword lots of times, but not in that context, okay? It says bad practice. So Airbnb, which I mentioned before, was the JavaScript style guide that people are using on the web. Airbnb style guide tells us that for objects, bad, don't do that. Good, do that, right? So if you ever have a question of what you should be doing, there's bad and then there's good. And you go here and it's like, what should I do? What should I do? Just ask the Airbnb style guide. It'll tell you, okay? And then to elicit things back from an object, we use dot notation, right? When we had the array, we did dot length, and that gave us back a value. So person dot job, we're actually setting a value, and then here we're getting it. So there's setters and getters. This is how we're going to do it, okay? This is when we create it. This is how we can set and get it. So let's go ahead and set and get some stuff, right? Code along. Starter. All right. Create a person object with the following properties and methods. Okay. We're going to create this person with these properties, a name that is a string, an age that is a number, is alive, Boolean, like are you alive, right? If I'm keeping track of my historical ancestors, they're not going to be alive, and I want to keep track. In my family tree, if they've deceased, there's going to be a little something under there that says if is alive is false, then the value is deceased. If they're alive is true, then the value is true. Like make them green or red, whatever. And then fave hobbies, which is going to be an array. And then we'll add some methods, like we can have our object say and do things. So let person equal to curly braces. Now these curly braces are different when we did the what? Oh, I didn't slide it out? Sure. Yeah, that's slide it out. There we go. Sorry about that. So, fork it, take a moment to fork it. We're going to create it with these properties. So the first property is name, colon. What's our name? Just put your name. Joe. Okay. When we add more properties, we need to separate those properties with a comma. So in an array, we did it with a comma, right? So over here, when we did it in the array and we had things, we separated things in the array with commas. So commas are used to separate things. And in an object, commas are used to separate things. They separate the next key value pair. I'm going to go to the next line. This is how we usually write it. You could write it all in one straight line, but that would just make it hard to read. Age, colon, and then whatever you want to add. I'm just going to put 21 as the age. It's a number. I wouldn't put it in strings of text because it's a number. Anything in strings of text is a string of text. Anything not that looks like a number is a number. That's a data type. Comma. Go to the next line. Is alive, colon, true. Yeah, I'm alive. Not in quotes. This is a Boolean value. True is a Boolean true. False is a Boolean false. Comma. Next line. Fave, hobbies, colon, brackets, and just put your favorite hobbies. So, I enjoy surfing. Riding motorcycle. What's that? Okay. And what are my hobbies? Skydiving, maybe? Like adventure. Put whatever you want for your hobbies. Once again, we're using this array to store a collection of strings of text, right? So this is just a collection of things. That's it. This is a collection of things, but this collection of things requires key value pairs to really indicate. Because if we just saw Joe, 21, true, are you going to make the assumption that 21 is an age, or is 21 how many years I worked at a job? Like, you don't know what those values mean unless you give them context. This doesn't give me all the context I need. What does true mean? True what? I tell the truth all the time, true? Do I lie, false? Like what? No. Oh, is alive true? Well, that makes sense, right? So these help you make sense of these values. And so fave hobbies is a key, and all we need to do is store strings of text. An array becomes the perfect thing for that, right? Everything inside this array is related to fave hobbies, so it makes sense to store them as strings of text. Unless I wanted my fave hobbies to have more context. Like if someone said, I was in a bar or restaurant, I'm like, oh, you go surfing, great. The conversation might be, how long have you been surfing? When did you start surfing? Where do you go surfing? How long is your board? These would be questions. I could turn this into an object and include those things, like the activity of surfing, time doing activity, this many years. When did you start? Back in this year, right? I don't need that information for this. I just want to regurgitate the things that I like to. I'm just showing you that here we could extend this to include even more detail, and objects are used for details. Arrays are used for storage. Objects are used for details, lots and lots of little bits. All right, so we have this thing. I'm just going to console log and say this is person. Okay, let's make sure that person save. And if you refresh, I refresh the page. Look, this is person, and it's an object. You can tell that this is an object. The curly braces, the key value, separated by commas. That's the object. And now you can interact with the object. I can drop the object down so I can see its things. I can drop the array down and see its things, but I already know. And look, when you drop the array, look, these are the positions of the elements, and these are the values of those elements at that position in this array of 3 things. Okay? And so this is a great way to collect information about things. Everything you see is an object, and it has these key value pairs. Okay? So if I want to retrieve the value stored in name, this is how you do it. I'm just going to console log and say this is name, so I know when I look at the console logs what I'm seeing. Person, ready for it, dot, what do you think it is? Name. Right? Remember, I always said the dots here represented that the thing before it was an object. Here we were executing methods on the objects. Length was a property of an object. And if we take a look, we should see the person's name is here, Joe. There's the person's name. Okay, easy enough. Since I don't have the run button, every time we type stuff, this is just gonna have a lot. So I'm just gonna kind of refresh it, run it so I can see the 2 consoles that I have. The person, the object, and the name. Cool. Retrieve the value stored in age. You could have gone ahead and been like, I got this. This is age, person.age. Sweet, easy enough. So again, if I save it and I refresh the page, I will see the 3 things here. And you see how age is coming back as 21, and that looks blue, versus Joe, which is a black text. This is a string. This is a number. The blue represents that this is a number. And a number is important. Okay? If I stored this using quotes, if I just put it in quotes, you know, we know it's 21. If I store it in quotes and it comes back, look, it's no longer a number. This is a string of text. And when I try to add the number 2 to this, if I was like, oh, I'm 23 and not 21, it would put 2, 1, 3 because you're concatenating strings of text. You're not adding numbers. That's a difference. So these data types are key. So make sure if you want a number, it is a number and not a string of text. 21. Cool. What's the next one? Retrieve the value stored in is alive. Still pretty basic here. Console log. This is alive. Person dot is alive. All right. Save it. I'm going to refresh it so I only see everything that I typed out. There we go. The object, Joe, age, and is alive true. And you can see is alive comes back in blue. It's a Boolean. It's a true value. All right. And retrieve the value, console log. This is fave hobbies, right? Person dot fave hobbies. And so I'm going to refresh, and I should see fave hobbies. Which, once again, if I was showing details about myself on the page, I would grab fave hobbies, loop over fave hobbies as an array, and maybe create list items. My favorite hobbies, and you would just see surfing, grandmother's a skydiving, right? And they would be list items, LIs, that would be created on the page because I stored them in an array, and I can do whatever I want with these things, just like we did with colors, okay? Sweet. So now we want to create some methods, okay? So I have these things. These are our properties, and these return values back. Methods do things. So if I want to add a new method, if I want to add anything, I still have to do a comma here, right? So at the end of line 8, if I want to add something new, I need to have a comma, comma here, and go to the next line. All right, well, what's the method? We want to say hi. So I'm going to do this. Say hi. Just like that. That looks like a function, right? Right, well, we're like, blue button clicked. That would have been blue button clicked, but then we would have had the function keyword. Function, blue button clicked, and this. But in a method, we just need to do this, okay? There's 2 ways to do it. This is the newer way of doing it. Leave it like this, okay? I'll show you the other way of doing it. You don't do it, because we're going to go back to that. I'm just showing you, it could have been like this. Say hi, function. That could have been it. But who wants to do all this when this looks so much easier, right? I don't need a colon. I don't have to type function. I don't want to do that. I just want to do this. This is the new ES6 way of doing it. The new version of JavaScript said, why don't we make it easy for people just to do this stuff? So I want to say hi. So, hey, I'm a pretty friendly person, and I want to say, hey, console log, oops. Hello there. That's it. Think of these objects as like characters in a game. And if the character wants to talk to another character or 2 characters meet, they greet each other. And this is their greeting when they meet. Oh, the 2 characters meet, there's some logic like if. If character 1 meets a new character, call the say hi method so that they say hi. So the user on the screen, they're like, hello there. Oh, cool, nice to meet you, right? This is it. If we wanted to call the say hi method, I'm going to go down here. We'll call this thing first. Call the say hi method. I don't need to console log this thing because it's already console logging. So I'm going to do this. Person dot say hi, open and close brackets. Does this look familiar? Like, does this structure look familiar? Does that look just like that, these, right? That looks just like we're asking for HTML or something. Here, return back the HTML. Yeah.
Is there a difference between method and function?
A method is a function that is attached to an object. That's the definition of a method, okay? Because this function, say hi, is only available inside of this object. Anything out here doesn't know about say hi. They have to go through the person object to call the say hi function. It's not global anymore. You can't just say hi, and the function, the script is going to be like, say hi. I don't know where say hi is. Say hi is now packaged inside of this thing. That's where it lives. So if I do this and I collapse it, and out here you did something like say hi, your function would be like, what the hell are you talking about? There's no function out here called say hi. I don't even know what you're trying to do. It would error out. Look, say hi is not defined. Because say hi wasn't created out here. Say hi was created in here. And because it's in there, the only way to get to that thing is through this. This is the doorway to all these things. Okay? So if we went down here and we did this, right, and I said hi, look, hello there. It's a method. It's stored in there. Okay? And if we wanted to say goodbye, comma, the next method would be say goodbye. And we could say console log goodbye there. Whatever you want to say. Goodbye. See you later. Okay? And the same concept. We create the method, which means we want to call the method. And down here, I would just say person dot say goodbye. And we should see hello there and see you later. Right? Now, you know, it's proper when you introduce them, when you kind of, hey, hi there. If I was to say hi or introduce myself, I would say, hello there, my name is Yadi, right? My name is something. So I'm going to take this just one step further. What if I said, hello there, my name is, how would I get access to this variable here? Now this is a string of text. I have to call name in order to get Joe, right? I mean, I could put Joe there, but the next time I create an object, do you think I'm just going to keep hard coding their name, or I'm going to reference where their name already exists? So we could use string concatenation, and I'd say plus, maybe what if I said name? I mean, didn't name work earlier, like person.name? Since we're inside of here, does it make sense? Like if I type name, it should return back name? Does that kind of make sense? We're in this thing, right? Everything should know about everything else inside of here. So let's see, it does not, right? So if I run this, I'm gonna run it, and look, it says my name is CodePen. Is your name CodePen? I feel like that's a little weird. Are we all CodePen? This is where you're gonna see it for the second time. Can anybody tell me where this was used before? Anybody remember? You remember the context it was used? I'd even say like the demo, but you know the demo. What was the demo we always do? Oh yeah, you should just say, to play it safe, we did it in Color Switcher, right? I mean, you'd be safe, like safe, couldn't go wrong. Like, well, which Color Switcher did we do? Would be my next question, right? What we did it was, I'm gonna just take a look and see where this came from. When we did this, I think we did it here where we rolled up all of the into, did we do it? Did we roll them up into one function? See, remember how we had all these functions here? Hey, attach the Y button click, and then this, and like, oh, here's blue button was clicked, and like change the background. Remember how we did that? 4 of those are all grayed out. But look, how is it working now? These buttons, all those events are now working. Look, this, all right? So remember adding this as a function, right? I don't know if anybody recalls why we use .on click here. Does anybody remember? Instead of just .click. Seems like forever ago, right? Forever way back machine. And yet you learned it, and you did it. If I add the color red here, look, red's added, right? And look, red works. Any color I add here,
So this, go ahead. Oh, so my question was this: what's the difference between doing a click event like this and doing an on click like this? I mean, it has to call this function, right? But if I did it like this, would it work? Would it work for this button? For the red button? So here, this on was for dynamic things that were added later in the application. Click events like this, Y button dot click means the Y button better be in this page at the time that you ran this. You can't just later on add a Y button. This on said anything that you add dynamically here, we're going to attach the change color function, and that anytime it's clicked, it'll run this, and we refactored our code, and we leveraged this. I'm trying to just get to the concept of this. What does this represent in here? I mean, line 29 really says it, right? That this keyword knows which element has been clicked on. This will tell you if you clicked on the green button, the red button, the blue button. Is this a getter or a setter? It's a getter. It's getting the background color of the element that you clicked on. Which element did you click on? This element. Which element did you click on? This element. Right? I'm only bringing that up because we did do this, and then you did a lot with it, and now we're back to seeing the context of this. It's the same context. When I ask you, what does this represent? What do you think this represents here? What thing has the property of name? The object. This represents the object, right? So I'm going to just make sure this works, right? If I go here, look, my name is Joe versus my name is CodePen. This is something that you're always going to see as representing the context of something. This represents this thing, this object. And so I need to use this as the keyword to get access to any of the properties that are inside of this object. Okay? This is important. Without this, it doesn't know where to find name. It's like name where? Name what? I don't know what you want. I can't access this thing directly using just name. You have to tell me the context of what name is. I don't know. Okay? Okay. So let's take a look. Here we go. Raise. And the lab. So we're going to jump into the lab. I also have a bonus memory game here as well. So if you get done with working with the objects, the memory game, you're going to go through and do things in regards to objects. So I will open up the lab first and slide this out. Put it in the wrong place. All right, let's go through this. Okay. You're creating two monkey objects, Bobo and Coco. Those are going to be your little monkeys. All right. Want them to be change the names. You want them to be dogs, whatever. These monkeys are going to have properties: a name, a species, and a foods eaten. Now these properties are going to, this name is going to be a string of text. Where the first monkey is going to have a name of Bobo, and the second monkey is going to have a name of Coco. The species will be a string of text. You can choose whether it's a chimp, spider monkey, bonobo. We know of other monkeys. I don't really know a lot of monkeys' names. And then foods eaten is going to be an array with at least one food. I don't know,
ate bananas, ate apples, ants, whatever they ate. You populate this with something. Then you're going to create methods. Eat something. Eat something will push something into the foods eaten array. And what's the method we use to push something into an array? Dot push, easy enough. Reference, the arrays lab. Introduction, console log. I put here a template literal string that you can do string concatenation. I'm going to go back just to show you what this is. I should have shown you what that is. And then that introduces themselves and includes its name, this dot name, this dot species, and then the things that it's eaten. This dot foods eaten. Okay? Let me just go and show you what I mean by this string template literal. You will have seen this before. It may not look like we did it. So you see how I said, hello there, my name is this, right? This is one way to do it. So I'm gonna just copy it, comment it out, and I'm gonna show you the other way to do this. Instead of using single quotes, I'm gonna use backticks. I'm gonna put backticks around this. Here we're single quotes or double quotes when it's a string of text. Here's our backticks, okay? And I'm gonna do this. I'm getting rid of this plus and that single quote, and I'm gonna surround the variable in $, curly braces. Believe it or not, you've seen this a couple of times. You never even know, but you have seen this. This is called string template literals. This is called string concatenation, where we concatenate strings of text together. That's what we're doing. String template literals allows you to have texts and variables all in the same thing so that you don't have to add plus signs and you kind of get lost in those plus signs. And so this should work. My name is Joe. Still works. Everything is good. Okay? These are the two differences. I'm going to save it. Once again, this is an example of string concatenation, which uses plus signs, and this an example of string template literals. Okay? This is the new way of doing it. You're going to see this used in newer code. You're going to see this used everywhere because this has been used long before this came out. Okay? So you have the two examples. I'm going to do this once again. I'm going to put that over there. What happened to it? Let me get rid of this. Why does it keep doing that? There we go. Here's this. I'm going to put that over there. Expand this a little bit. So you have what we were working on as context, and then you have the new thing, right? So I'm going to move this over so we have more there, and that's the new thing, okay? So you're going to do logo, and you're going to confirm the objects are working by outputting its name, species, foods eaten, push something into it, all of that. And then Cocoa as well, okay? Set the timer, another 20 minutes. All right. Yes. It's kind of a party out there. What's that? Yeah, so I put foods eaten right here. Oh no, I'm just console logging what's in it already. So it has one thing. You're going to add something later on, but for right now, it's empty. We have at least one thing so that you can see the one thing. So I'm going to save this. I'm going to refresh it, and I have this error line 22. Oh, just one of the console logs. No, I got to get rid of that. Bobos. That should work. Okay. All right. That's what you should have for just the properties above it. Cocoa will be identical to this, right? The name will be different. That'll be Cocoa. That'll be Cocoa. It's going to be Spider. It'll be Spider, Bonobo, whatever you want it to be. It could be Banana Date, whatever it is. Change those things up so at least you have some variety. Okay? And then Bobo Chewy. Oh, I put apple here. I'll put something else. Nuts. Because I'm going to add an apple down here. So now I'm going to say Bobo dot. Oh, I have to create the method first. Something, right? Once again, just taking a look at this over here. This over. Same context. And this is going to take in. Yeah, there was one small thing about this that we didn't cover. That might have been tripped everyone up. What's that? That's where you're stuck. Okay. So the one I just realized here is, in order to get something into the function, we have to put a placeholder here, which we've never done, ever. We've only created functions like this and like this, but we never put anything inside of there. So there are arguments, yes. This is a parameter, and now what we can do is do foods eaten, or this dot foods eaten dot push, and then we could push in food, or if you didn't know how to do this, you could have just done this. You could have said food and just pushed an apple, right? Could have been like that. We know how to do this, right? So you could call the function and just push in an apple, but this is static, it's not dynamic. What if we want to feed it a banana next time or something else? You're not going to go in here. I'll show you how to set this up, but let's just, for now, if we did that, that should work. And if I was to console log, if they eat something, right? So if I just call Bobo dot eat something. I'm just going to call it. If I do that, and now if I console log, I'm just going to console log Bobo dot foods eaten. All right, foods eaten is this. We should see nuts and apple. Okay, I'll explain what this is. We didn't delve into the world of functions. This is just another thing of functions. Okay. And then I'm just going to create the introduce method. So here, right, introduce, and we say, we'll say console log, hi, oh, string type of literals, backticks, hi, I'm this dot name, which is the same thing we did here. And then we can just do Bobo dot introduce, and hi, I'm Bobo. Okay. So this is everything for Bobo, and you would have produced the same thing for Coco. Once again, this is kind of like, when we were doing like, oh, all these functions of clicking a button, and I was like, hey, the repetitive nature of this thing is that you need to practice. You need to practice on creating these things. It may seem like, oh, I got to create another monkey with just a different name and different yada yada. You need to practice in doing this. Look at all the stuff that I showed you that you had done in the past. Click events and all that. Looping things. If you had to do it today, you couldn't do it today. You would struggle with it. You have to push something in. This time food's in, not push. Just type in food. You type in food and you pass something down in the console and see what you get. So what your food's eating. In something, if you put in an apple, like as a string of text, it should, as a string of text. Yeah. Oh, that looks sweet. Yeah. It should. Send me the code and I can take a look. Because I didn't create that. I just said I introduced myself and I didn't do anything. All right. So let's do this. I think the only thing that I did forget here in the introduce was to console log the name, the species, and foods eaten. Right? So let me take a look at this, and then Maria, I'll take a look at your code. So, hey, I'm this. I'm Coco. My species is this dot species, right? And I've, yeah, we can do this. I've eaten this dot foods E10. That looks good. Backtick, backtick. Oh, I need that. So I'm going to just pull this out a little bit so we can see the full thing. I'm looking at the color coding so that I can see everything is on point. This color coding looks just like that color coding, but it looks like that. All the text is this orange kind of text. That looks good. I don't think there's an issue with that. All looks good. I'm going to see what this produces here. Let me go here. And look. Hi, I'm Bobo. My species is spider, and I've eaten nuts and apples. Okay? Once again, all we did was extend this, taking this construct and extending it. So I'm going to take a look here. So Maria, I'll take a look at yours. right? Once again, we haven't really troubleshot anyone's code, and I think it's important. Let's just see, do you have any errors? I have foods eaten, Bobo? All right, so let's take a look at what you did. You said console log, backtick, that looks just like what I did. Oh, you put in this eat cycle. So this should be foods eaten, right? If you put foods eaten, that's why. This is species chimp. And did you call it? I don't think you called it here either. I don't see the introduction, so it's not doing it. But this would have been. Okay. All right. So refresh. Let's see. Okay. Foods eaten. Now, did you call the introduction? So here's your introduce. Oh, you do have introduce. Yeah. So hello, I'm Bobo. Bobo. Yeah, it works. Right here. Foods eaten. Okay. I'm going to go back to what we were working on here, okay? Go to full screen mode. This was it. Get rid of that space, okay? Creating the thing with key value pairs separated by commas, right? Key, colon, the thing, the methods, and then this console. Okay. The only thing in here that I kind of threw in here, and I forgot, was that functions allow you to pass things into them. Okay? Function is like a little mini program. It can take things in and spit things out, right? This thing spits something out. It tells you that it's eating this. This thing spits something out, right? Console log. Here for foods eaten, I could have said, hey, what food are they going to eat? And then whatever you pass in, these are just placeholders. When I call this eat something, I'm actually going to pass it in a value. This is called a parameter. And when you pass something in, you're passing in an argument. And they line up. Whatever gets passed in here gets stored inside the function represented by that name. Okay? We didn't really get into that because we didn't really have any context for this. Using functions and like click events, that was the real focus of functions, having them do something and then running a bunch of code to create things. That was enough for you to do. To throw this in at any point in time would have been like just more stuff. Okay? But if I save it and I do this, it should have eaten that apple. Okay? You will see it a lot. Again, there's a whole world of JavaScript that we just can't go over. Okay, so Coco would have been the same thing, right? Same, I could copy and paste this right now and just change this to be Coco, that to be Coco. I could have left it as Spider Monkey. I could have left, it all would have been the same thing. But you should get the practice of doing this because you will need to create objects at some point in time. They are used heavily in JavaScript. If you're not importing them, then you're creating them from scratch for your own purposes, okay? Now, the only other thing was that bonus. So I want to open up what the bonus was. Anyone get the bonus? Nobody got the bonus. Okay. So let's take a look. Was this the bonus? I have a few of these things open up on my screen. All right. Here we go. This is where we created the cards earlier. Okay. And so here was part one. And I walked you through part one, right? Looping, part one was to loop over the cards array, create an image tag, give it an image, which is this background image, give it a data ID attribute of its position, give it a click method, and then append it, and we did that. Now, what we need to do is for part two. All right, let me zoom in a little bit. I'm going to follow the steps, and let's just see how far we can take it just based on the steps. Create a variable called card ID. Let card ID. Just created the variable. The next it says set the variable to the elements data ID attribute value. How do we do that? Well, what I want you to kind of pay attention to, how did I set it in the first place? How did I set this thing? What method did I use to set it? And what method do you think you're going to use to get it? Getters and setters. That's what we've been doing, getters and setters, for a while now. So let's think this through. Here we are. I'm going to keep that open up there. I collapsed the check for match function. So this should be equal to what? Set the current element's image source, or set the variable to the current element's ID. What element did I click on? What's that magic keyword? I went out of my way earlier to kind of like show you the thing and how it compared to the other thing. This, right? I did, right? I said, hey, let's take a look how we used this before. So this, right? So this would be equal to this. Didn't you just click on it? Okay. So create a variable called that. Set the variable to the current element's data ID attribute. How do I get attributes from an element using jQuery? What's the method? What's the name of the attribute? Data-ID, right? Isn't that what we set it to? Data ID. That's what we set it to. That should give me back the value. So I'm going to do this because I want to confirm that that's it. So I'm going to say console log, hey, this is the data ID value, and let's do card ID. Okay? If I click on this card, and this card has a data ID attribute that has a value, and I'm able to grab this card and grab this data ID value, we should see 0, 1, 2, whatever it is. So first, I would just confirm that these elements have a data ID attribute, right? Look, just confirming that it's there. It's there, I should be able to elicit that value, right? All right, so watch. I'm going to click on this thing. Oh, flip card, what happened? Flip card. Inside flip card, did I not save it? Oh, you know what? I didn't run it. See the run button? I didn't run it. Because I just have this is inside flip card, and I only have this to make sure that the click event works. Right now, let's do it. Oh, card ID is not defined. So let's see what's happening here. Card ID. Did I misspell this? Oh, did I put an uppercase D? Well, how many times have we seen this? Card ID is not defined. The click button is not defined, right? Save it, run it. Get rid of this error now. 0. What do you think if I click on this? What's its data ID value? 1, 2, 3. Oh, no. Yeah, 3, right? Because it's 4 things, the thing at the third position. Awesome. So I have it. So we know that this works, right? Okay, cool. Let's go to the next one. Set the variable of the current elements. Okay. Oh, no, we just did that, right? Okay. So let's go to the next one. Set the current element's image source to what was changed. So here's the thing. The fact that I'm taking card image and I'm setting it to this, right? So card ID now is this, I got the value. If I want to set the current element's image source to what's stored in its card image property. All right. Why am I getting back this value of 0, 1, or 2? Why? Okay. But now that I have this value 0, what do I use 0 for? To do what? How do we store things in an array? How do we get them out of the array? Based on its position. If I have 0, do I not know now where that thing lives inside the array? If there were 100 things and I got the number 78, can I not go into the array and grab the element at position 78? I know where it lives in the array now. Okay. If I know where it lives in the array, right? Let's do this. So set the variable. We already did this, right? So I'm going to move this. I'm just going to put this up here so I don't have two separate lines, right? So how do I set the current element's source right now? How would I write that out? What's the current element? This, right? So you already know that. That's the current element. How do I set its source image? Dot source. And I have to set it to a value though, right? Comma, what's the value? Where is the value stored for this thing? Well, wouldn't you go up to the cards array and take a look? And I showed you the cards array earlier. The cards array has objects inside of an array, and the object at position 0, 1, 2, 3 has a card image. There's only 4 properties in here. It's rank, it's suit, it's card image, and it's background. Right? So background image is the same for all of them. That's this image. Card image is going to be different, right? Queen of diamonds, queen of hearts, king of hearts. Okay? So if I want to set it to its position or card image, how would I do that here? What do I first have to get my hands on? The array. Am I looking for something in the array? At what position? What's the value that I'm looking for and at that element? Does this make sense? That's the array. Because we got a number back from here, that's its position in the array. So this will return back the object, and I want to get its card image. Okay? I now have its card image. Awesome. Which means if I do, oh, I didn't run, save it and run, right? I just want to make sure, I'm not up to this point yet. We will do that. Once again, I just want to see, does it work? It works. Everything that I click on now will flip over. Okay? And it's because of the way we stored this content. We have an array of cards, and we grab the thing that we clicked on because we know its position. And that returns back an object. That returns back this object right here. This is the object that returns back. And because it returns back an object, we already know the object dot any one of these things returns back the value stored in those things. So if I say object.rank, I get back queen. Object.suits, I get back hearts. Object.card image, I get that. Background image, I get that. Okay? And so that's why we are able to elicit the image value back from the thing that we clicked on, right? Just a handful of things and we got it. And then here, I'm just pushing that element's rank into the cards in play array. So take a look at the cards in play array. It's an empty array, right? Because as you play the game, remember, like the shopping cart, click on a shirt, it's pushed into the array. I click on shoes, it gets pushed into the array. The minute you touch a card, we need to keep track of what you've touched. So I'm going to take this card and I'm going to put it in here because what I'm really comparing is what? Is this a queen or is this a queen, right? That's what we're comparing. I'm not comparing, there's not going to be 2 queen of hearts, right? There's going to be 2 queens, and I'm going to compare if you clicked on a queen and you clicked on another queen, you win the game. It's that basic. How do we keep track of what you clicked on? We're going to put it into this array. What of these values from this object tell me the rank? Rank! So all I need to know, I don't care which one you clicked on necessarily. Did you click on that something that was a queen? Sure. Is this a queen? Did you click on something else that's a queen? Sure. The two values in that array should both be equal to queen. So if I go down here and I say push the elements into the array, I'm going to push this on to the next line here. We would do, how would we write that? All right, push the elements rank into the cards array. So cards in play dot push, because it's an array. Now what do we do? You're right. So cards, card ID dot rank. Okay. Once again, I have to go grab the thing from the array. Here I had to grab it, its card image. Here I'm grabbing its rank, and I'm pushing it in there. And now every time you click on something, this cards array right here will increase every time. And we can see that. I can console log now. Console log, this is cards in play. Cards in play. Okay? Watch what happens. I'm going to get rid of all this. I'm going to save and run it. I'm going to refresh and make sure it all works. I don't get any errors. No errors. Sweet. I'm going to go back here. Watch. Cards in play queen. I'm going to click on the king just so that we know. Cards in play, queen and king. You lose the game. That's it. You only get one shot at this. All right. I'm going to reset it. Click on this, queen, click on that, queen, queen. I would have won the game at this point in time. We haven't, oh, look, found a match right there. If you don't do it, right, boom, boom, sorry, not a match. Okay. And the sorry, not a match is coming from this. Does this look familiar? If, else, what does if else do for us? Conditional logic, right? And so we're saying is like, if the, what does this say? If the array element at position 0 is equal to the array element at position 1, queen is the first time, queen is the second, that would be true. We then leave this message. Else, we just leave a message because we know it didn't work. And I left here because this is the old JavaScript way of doing it. I just wanted to give some sort of comparison. You should be able to take this and convert it into that. This is the JavaScript way of doing it. That's the jQuery way of doing it. And so you have a little basic game here that contains a lot of logic. This isn't easy. This is actually the software engineering immersive pre-work. Anybody who's taking or looking to take the course, you would be building this out, and it takes about 40 hours to work through everything. You build out the HTML. Then you build this stuff out, and they explain what functions are, they explain what objects are, they do all of that, and you build this out, okay? And there's a lot of logic, and so you can already see, considering that you've learned some of this stuff, if the loops and all that, how hard it is just to re-implement it on the fly like this. Going through this thing, through some tutorial where you're just doing what it told you to do, and then coming into a class and be like, all right, now we're gonna learn JavaScript. The stuff that you did would be like, I don't know how to do that. I did it because you walked me through it, just like I could code it in front of you, but it's not easily done, okay? But these two, in the world of JavaScript, are a must to know, and now you know why, in the context that it's being used. And you will see this even more next class when we pull data, and the way the data is structured as stored as objects with arrays that have objects inside them, that have arrays inside them, and you need to get down like 5 things deep to get a particular value, and you need to do things like this in order to do it. I have to get the thing in the array, and get its property, and it returns back an array, so I have to get the thing into the, it can be really confusing to do that, okay? I know, it's how I feel. Exactly how I feel. It's a lot of stuff. JavaScript at times can be overwhelming. Like this stuff can just be like, what the? But this is the world of web development. Like you can't escape it. I'd like to just sugarcoat it and be like, oh, just create HTML and that's gonna be great. But that's not how web development is. You have to know this stuff and you have to be fluent in JavaScript. It's like a must. Okay, so that's like all the JavaScript we can give you today. There is anything for the homework? I think only for the homework is like continue to work on your MVP. If you have not started, start. All right, that's, you know, my best advice. Start it, because you only have next Thursday, and that's it, right? So if it's not like you don't have an HTML thing yet, all right. If you think you can build it in a couple of hours, then you're fooling yourself, because that's not how it is. I've seen enough people come through this class. You just don't build it in 2 hours. The thing takes time. Okay? All right. Exit ticket. You send out. Other. Exit ticket. Other. Sweet. All right. We got an exit ticket. Got about 6 minutes left. Hit me up at the exit ticket. Love to hear how arrays and objects went. You do it? You did it? All right. Yeah, you just come up and present your project.
Oh, that's it?
That's it. Come up, show the working thing, show what it does, pat yourself on the back, and like talk about the amazing stuff that you implemented, and that's it.
Do you think the stuff that I'm doing is too
No. I think the stuff that you were doing is pretty on point.
Okay.
I mean, have you been able to like build it out?
I started.
Okay. Because I know when we spoke, you're like, it's going to take a couple hours. I'm like, oh, a couple hours is like, you know, you're trying to like, it's not. That's why I was like, you have to build it. That's why I said, put the calendar, like thing on the back burner.
Oh, no.
Because the calendar, you see now how,
I'm not even gonna do that.
exactly. You can understand how the calendar was going to be really time consuming and it wasn't worth the effort to create a calendar when there's calendar
But
things
after
out.
our conversation,
Yeah.
it was abundantly clear that it would take
Way too long.
the whole 10
Yes.
weeks.
If your final project would have been a calendar that you could click on, that would have been your project, and I would have been fine with that. If you want to create a calendar that you can click on and like do things and add events,
Okay.
awesome. You're creating an application at that point. Okay? The beer one? The beer ones? Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Things that I wanted to modify that.
Okay. Yeah. Let me get the beer one.
But I'll try to do something like that.
Okay. You got.
And that seems like exactly what I need. So in the wireframe, so I was just planning on doing some of the landing page
Okay.
and then working on the product page.
Is this between your kids coming up to you saying, Mommy,
Exactly.
feed us, play with us? Is that between all this? All right.
Plus work.
Plus going and having a job. Okay.
Exactly.
All right.
Crazy busy with in
Yeah.
the last 2 weeks. I haven't been able to do much.
So what do you think is the most practical thing that you could implement here based on your time
This
constraints?
is what I wanted. Like,
Well, I know what you want to do. But based on your time constraints, do you think you could build that out by
I
next
think I'm
Thursday?
gonna try to like just start with the product page.
Okay, that's what I'm saying.
I
Like,
can't get to the landing page because like
Exactly.
I'd rather do this. Like I can do the basic piece of it, which is just do a grid and get those images. in
Sure.
there. This would be
Manually
better,
getting it in there.
yeah,
Yeah.
because then I can do
Yeah.
JavaScript to pull it.
if
from
you
the
store them,
scratch.
so if you do this, if you store them in a Google Sheet, the way you want to pull them, we can pull it next class. We can use yours as the demo.
Okay.
and say, we're gonna pull this Google Sheet. I'll walk you through how to share it and publish it really easy. We'll pull it and we'll build something. I'll at least console log it. I don't have the structure for it.
Yeah.
But we can just put a bunch of divs and boxes and be like, look, da, 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 da. You know what I'm saying?
But then the one thing that'll get tricky that I don't think I'll be able to do
Yep.
is that I want it to be able to filter.
Yeah, that's like JavaScript logic right there.
So
I do have a filter example of something, but that's a lot of JavaScript logic.
So if I at least can get the images in here,
Sure.
and then, maybe.
You could. I mean, at that point in time, it's
Because I
like,
wanted to filter by like 2 things. But I want like my default to bring all of them, because again.
yeah,
they're
you show all and
So
then you
filter.
filter. So what you can do with
Like,
filtering
you
is,
look
you
at
know
our
how we had a
website.
data dash ID? You could do data dash product, data dash whatever. It doesn't have to be data dash ID. Data is the key, dash whatever you want to call it. So you can store 2 property names inside of the HTML element. So when you do click on filter, you can grab all of the things that are the thing you want, right? Grab them all, hide them. Remember how we hid everything? Then grab the ones you want and show them.
Because again, like this is what I'm trying to change, because this
Yeah.
is what this is so bad. Like these are the images, right?
Sure.
Like right now I actually have them as an image, all of it. But
Yeah.
maybe with
You want
this
text,
thing,
yeah. You don't
I
want
can
text.
do the texts, then I can edit much easier.
Sure, yeah.
But right now my thing does like, I can filter here and here.
Sure.
But it's just confusing. So my design, where is it? Was here, was to do like this.
Like a drop
brands.
down.
Like I actually took it from the knot.
Oh, the knot. No, my favorite one of my, I almost feel like I haven't seen the knot in forever.
So here, when you look at reception venues,
Mhm.
see how they have like this image, and
Sure.
then you can filter, and then
Okay.
hit search, but they still have all of this here.
Yeah.
It's just
You see
like
all the
I can-
defaults until you make the decision
Yeah.
on what you want to see.
So that's
Well,
kind of what I'm
filtering is like, yeah, I'm going to say